Welcome to TNC, where I spill the tea and we see how we can learn from it. I am your host, TeaSea, and let's start the tea session. The tea today is a continuation from last week's story, and we are going to look at it with a different lens today. As a refresher, and for those of you who are new here, here's a brief summary of the tea from the last episode. I had this friend, let's call her Claire. Claire had an issue with one of her friends that was part of a huge friend group that she was in, and this big friend group was the main friend group she was part of in high school. Let's call this person my friend who had problems with Abigail. So, what did Abigail do to Claire? No hate to all the Abigails out there. This is just a placeholder. Love you guys. Back to the story. Firstly, Abigail started spreading rumors within the group that my friend Claire did not care about her friends. This is totally not true. And why would you befriend someone who you thought didn't care about you in the first place? Secondly, Abigail copied Claire to the letter. Whatever Claire wore, Abigail wore. I kind of admire her dedication. It's pretty hard to be on your toes and constantly notice what Claire is wearing, then manage to source and purchase the exact clothing or accessory Claire was using, even down to the details that are hard to find. Which is why I hope that Abigail could one day find it in herself to redirect that drive and dedication to learn how to love herself, as I mentioned in the previous episode, the pick me girl and insecurities. We are only scratching the surface on the topic of self love in that episode, but I thought to ease us into this series of bettering ourselves with a shorter episode for the first episode. After all, change can't happen all in one day. We have to learn to be gentle with ourselves as much as we are willing or excited to change for the better. Old habits die hard, and this podcast is here to give you that slight push along the journey. The fact that you have clicked on this podcast is admirable, as you have admitted to yourself that you want to better yourself, to level up, to become the hottest, most unbothered version of yourself. Congratulations for making it this far. The start is always the hardest step to take, and you have done just that. So, Abigail spread false rumors about Claire while copying Claire's outfits and accessories. When confronted and asked about her actions, Abigail chose to deny any allegations that she did anything of the sort. Thirdly, when the friend group was organizing hangouts, Abigail behaved inappropriately, inconveniencing every member of this large friend group. In doing so, she not only inconvenienced Claire, the person who she claimed did not care about her friends, as well as Claire was this main person who was planning and organizing the hangout. She also hugely inconvenienced and she tried to control the social circle of her crush, as she had told Claire that she was uncomfortable with Claire talking to him. This was a crush who she had not made a move on and was not in a talking stage or situationship with. She, in the friend group, she made a fuss and acted the victim, with Claire as the supposed perpetrator, and changed her accusations multiple times. After changing her accusations a few times, she made a fuss and waited for the other friends to coax her. Towards the end of this whole debacle, she sent a not apology, with apostrophe essay in the chat group. The chat group of the kind that seems to apologize but just for the sake of it, but never actually admits their mistake. The kind of apology essay that uses an apologetic tone that kind of says, "Oh, I'm sorry that I got caught." The kind that companies or influencers with bad PR end up with doing, which makes consumers disappointed in these companies or influencers. Now, when someone puts you in a spot like this, you tend to get conflicted. You were friends after all. You are friends? You have multiple mutual friends. And you don't really have closer friends that are not part of this friend group in school. You wonder if you have to leave this friend group, which may mean that you have to eat lunch alone. So then you consider tolerating this girl who seems to despise you. What would be the deciding factor for you at this point? As social creatures who crave external validation, I would propose that what many of us would look to next would be the stance that the other friends in the friend group are taking. Are our mutual friends on her side? Are our mutual friends on my side? Are our mutual friends trying to stay neutral? In this environment where we often put a huge amount of emphasis on prioritizing ourselves, we often forget that there is a difference between how we are supposed to treat our friends and strangers. You do owe your friends support. Yes, you are supposed to remember your friends' likes and dislikes. Yes, you are supposed to help your friend when they are moving apartments. Yes, you are supposed to sacrifice your comfort or time to console and listen to your friend when they are feeling down. Like that one time your friend found out that her boyfriend cheated on her. Your friend is your responsibility to a certain extent. Which comes to the main point of this podcast. There almost can never really be a truly innocent and pure bystander. And I'll say this again. There almost can never be a truly innocent bystander. There is almost never an instance where a bystander is innocent. Even more so when you are standing on the sidelines while your friend is troubled and needs support. So you so as I was saying, you wonder if your friends are on your side or not. And in this story, fewer friends supported Claire than friends who clammed up or tried to be neutral. In my opinion, we do have an obligation to try to help our friends. Those friends who tried to be neutral, when you think about it, were they really neutral at all? By saying that they are neutral, perhaps they were saying that because they were so accustomed to the large friend group and didn't want it to change. Change is inconvenient after all. But the dynamics of the friend group had already changed, and being in denial and covering your eyes does not mean that the thing didn't happen. It's like those children who cover their eyes with their butt or the whole body sticking out when they're playing hide and seek. By saying that they want to stay neutral, they were letting down Claire, saying, "I won't support you in your time of need. I want to stay neutral and innocent." By staying neutral, they were helping Abigail, who would benefit from their silence. By staying neutral, their silence was accepting or even encouraging Abigail's behavior, saying, "I won't stop you from being disrespectful towards me." Because remember, Abigail did inconvenience everyone when Claire was planning the hangout, as she disrespected their time and effort in planning for the event. I kind of do understand the thought process behind the "can I not get involved" kind of thinking. But it feels to me like they are doing the same thing as those bystanders when someone is getting bullied. I count bystanders as perpetrators too. Like, yes, they may be trying to stay innocent and avoid trouble, but in doing so, they are totally not innocent. They are allowing the violence to happen. That is an act in itself. This is just my guess. I feel like, other than the people who try to stay neutral, I feel like those who sided with Abigail, the villain of our story, did so not necessarily because they think she's right, but probably so because she was more aggressive in the way she spoke about Claire. So they decided that it would be easier for them to side with the more aggressive side. So if you ever feel like you are in Claire's shoes and you have no idea what you did wrong and you start thinking that you maybe did something wrong with someone telling everybody that you are being mean, you can take a deep breath and just write down the facts, because just because everyone thinks that you're wrong doesn't mean that you're wrong. It could just be that the person who was convincing them that you're wrong was really strong-willed and really aggressive in the way she put it across, which made them side with her. People are sheep after all, so it's okay. Like, you can learn to trust yourself. I'm not saying that you will always be correct, but it's always good to go with your gut feeling. In future, you will thank you for doing it. So, as I say that bystanders are perpetrators too, I want to say that the act of doing nothing is a choice. And I want you guys to remember this. Choose friends that will show up for you. And how do you attract these kinds of friends who would overcome the bystander effect and show up for you? By being the friend, of course. Be that girl who will have your friends back. And you may very well attract friends who will do the same for you. You don't want to be that girl who stays silent when one of your friends hurts another. You don't want to continue being friends with a girl who would disrespect and tarnish the name of a friend. Who's to say that you won't be her next target? For those girls who clammed up and refused to speak about what Abigail had told them to Claire, and were unwilling to listen to Claire's side of the story, at the very least, in my opinion, they could have at least listened to Claire's side of the story. There are times when both sides are correct. As friends, shouldn't they have given Claire a chance to speak? Other than these two camps of people, some people tried to make Abigail and Claire reconcile again, saying, and I quote, "It's for the sake of our friends." For the sake of our friends? For the sake of our friends kinda makes me think of those popular girls who just want to stay in the friend group because it's their comfort zone and the friend group is part of their identity. But we don't want to stagnate. When you're a toad in a lake where a factory is illegally dumping pollutants, you have to move upstream before your life ends due to chemicals poisoning you. I call these the toxic toad effect. Okay, in the toxic toad effect, when, like, social circles. Okay, so you are a toad in a lake, and when you realize that a factory is dumping chemicals that is going to kill you eventually in your lake, your home, you have to make a decision. Do I want to stagnate and just slowly die together with the wildlife in the lake that is my home? Or do I want to take a gamble? Do I want to try to move upstream, to improve myself, to leave this place I call home that is becoming toxic and find a better place where I'll have a better life without these toxic chemicals slowly killing me? Do you want to level up? We want to level up, right? We want to level up. So I have something similar before where I noticed that a relative of mine knew the game really well, and both my friend and I observed this relative purposely befriend this popular but mean guy just for the sake of being perceived as popular. I just saw this popular but mean guy today. It's been what, 3 years? No, it's been 4 years, and I just saw him today for the first time in 4 years, and he's looking totally normal. So it may seem useful. It may be useful for connections and whatnot to befriend the toxic person, but for those of us who really want to level up, we only want to surround ourselves with friends who would support us sincerely. Because when everyone around you is looking forwards and wants to level up together, you have this energy, when everyone's cheering, you feel like cheering too. When everyone's cheering for themselves and for you, you want to get into action. You want to level up. You want to move forward and become a better person together. That's what we want in life. And I know that it can be really hard to leave the main friend group. I had something similar around the same age in high school as well. I really liked these friends, but there were some issues which were kind of fundamental in terms of values. And as a young child, I kept trying to hold on until uh, these people did something that really crossed my boundaries. Do I think of them? Yes. And weirdly enough, one of them got into contact with me again. And we never did settle the issue, and she kind of tiptoed around it. So I can tell you that even after years pass, it can never really be the same because you know what they did. And people don't change that easily. I'm not saying that they will never change. I'm saying that it's really rare for people to change. So choose carefully whether you want to take them back or not, because I know that this person is still a friend. Maybe I know that she's a person that knows me very well, even compared to my current friends. But I also know that she probably definitely has other friends she likes more now. And she never really even acknowledged what she did. So if they did it again, they can do it again. It's the same way of thinking as those domestic violence perpetrators. Domestic violence only happens either zero times or multiple times. You have to learn to let go. I really miss them. Like, you will always miss the good memories that you made with these people, but you have to remind yourself that you won't be going back because there might not even be a way back. The dynamics has already changed. Though, depending on your situation, It is definitely your call on to what extent you want to handle this. I know that it's especially hard in school where there kind of is some sort of societal pressure for people to fit in and be in a clique and be popular, but in more ways than one, I would imagine that it's more beneficial to distance yourself from these people who are not true friends. I think that even if you still hang out, but you emotionally distance yourself on the inside and remind yourself constantly not to trust them, not to give your all to them, it that could be a way of dealing with it as well. Even though from my biased point of view would be that the best course of action is to leave these kinds of people because you only have so much time and energy for friends in your life. You know, in those psychology books and whatever, they say that there's a limit to the number of close friends you can make in your life. Or that maybe even a limit to social circles, like the size of social circles that you have. You only have so much time and energy for close friends. So you want to leave these limited spots for people who are truly worthy because you are valuable, you are amazing, and it is a privilege to be your friend, okay? So by leaving these fake friends, you are making way and telling the universe or your God that you are ready for better friends. You have an empty spot now, friends, or empty spots, multiple spots. Friends who would cheer you on and bring you up instead of tear you down. True friends who will support you to be the most healed, fulfilled, and highest version of yourself. So leave that friend group or leave that toxic person and let them stagnate. You are going to move on and level up. I hope you enjoyed the tea today. In a bit for learning to choose our friends wisely, I hope that you can think it over and reflect on your friendships. When have your friends supported you? How did it happen? How did it happen? Who helped you when you were down? Think of the first person that comes to mind. I know it's a hard habit to start, but I would like for you to journal and write down your gratitude for this friend or these friends who supported you when you needed it the most. By doing this, we are telling the universe or your God that we are grateful for their presence in our lives. We are leaving it open to receiving more of such true friends in our lives moving forward. Okay? So, think of it and journal it. Write it down. And do leave your stories in the comments. I am really excited to see your stories. And this is the end of this tea session, and I look forward to meeting you again. Until next time, bye bye.